If you've spent any time hanging around leftists, or if you're just getting into lefty stuff yourself, you might have heard the term dual power, and you've probably heard people talking about how important it is. Everyone's always saying, dual power this, mutual aid that. But what exactly is dual power, and why is it so important? Let's take a look at where the concept of dual power comes from, and how it relates to us today. So, basic stuff first. What is dual power? Well, dual power is a 100 card set of Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading cards featuring 6 booster packs containing 5 ultimates. Wait, what? No, that's the wrong dual power. To learn about what dual power is and how it can be effective, first we have to take a short trip back in time to the February Revolution. Dual power is a term originally used to describe what happened in the Russian capital of Petrograd shortly after the first of Russia's 1917 revolutions, commonly known as the February Revolution. This is a really complicated period of history, but the cliff notes are this. At this point, Russia was still under Tsarist rule, which was basically an absolute monarchy, and although prior revolutions in 1905 had pulled back some control, they had only really shifted into something kind of resembling a constitutional monarchy, with a portion of its ministers to be elected democratically by the people. This new system hadn't really been doing so well, government corruption was rife, the people didn't respect the royal family, and the average worker still wasn't any better off. On top of that, they'd all been putting up with strict rationing due to the funneling of food and resources to their army out fighting the First World War, which had resulted in numerous protests and riots led mainly by working class women, which eventually became the revolt that forced the Tsar to abdicate. In his place, the existing parliament, known as the Duma, was set to expand in duty and take control as a provisional government. At the same time, the Petrograd Soviet was emerging. Soviet is just the Russian word for council, and the Petrograd Council was formed by representatives from all different lines of work, most of them having been involved with various earlier groups that worked to protect the rights of workers, especially in regards to their exploitation for the war effort. So, at this time, we had these two dual powers competing to be seen as the legitimate government, the parliamentary ministers of the provisional government, and the brand new Workers' Council, the Petrograd Soviet. So dual power was a term that Lenin used to describe this particular moment in time. Before the later revolutions and civil war where the Soviets seized power, this particular period was important because it showed the Russian people that if they all banded together, they could create a new system without having to rely on any relics from the old one that had held them down for so long. So what does this mean today? How does that help us organize in our lifetime? Well, aside from the historic events referred to as dual power, these days the term has been adopted by modern leftists to not just describe those events, but to describe the tactic of creating a power structure to compete with the existing capitalist system. Whereas during the February Revolution, both powers were relatively fledgling, these days leftists living under capitalism have to play catch-up with the immense existing power structures. The key difference with dual power versus conventional activism is that it's about building long-term structures to make people less reliant on existing capitalist ones. So this could be through doing anything from setting up food cooperatives as an alternative to supermarkets, or unionizing your workplace to give more power to the workers. But the long-term goals should always include keeping everything owned and controlled by the workers, otherwise you're really just starting a business. Keeping the bigger picture in mind is also why it's super important for organizations to link and build together. A union of public transport workers by themselves can be enough of a thorn to influence legislation, but joined together with a teachers union, a nurses union, and a renters union, that's basically a general strike. A coalition of strong unions has been the beginning of plenty radical shifts in government, and is the core of many ideal leftist societies. One effective tactic if you lack the resources to start your own organization is to join an existing group, council, or union and push the conversation left by beginning discussions about issues that affect the group and how they can be solved through things like worker control or industrial action. This can be a good way of connecting the dots between workplace issues and raising awareness of our common class interests in general amongst your peers. Remember though that the conversation shouldn't end at your own door. The goal here is to set long-term plans for structures that can support people outside of the existing capitalist systems, to the point where people can't help but see the competing power as a viable alternative to the status quo. And once you have a broad base of support and the mechanisms in place for change, you can start pushing for that change. But these are big plans and they require a lot of hard work. and this video is only a relatively simplistic explanation of the concept, so if you want to learn more about dual power and associated tactics, here are some books to check out. Thanks for watching everyone, and thanks especially to Niraj Radgama, Dama Sophie, BCE, and Kat.